Hey, this is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com and healingsuicide.com. This is just a quick, rough video. Obviously, I'm not shaving my hair, the wall, the lighting is crap. This thing has come up. It makes me crazy, and it just happened again. So I'm doing a quick emergency video. A woman who listened to her Soul's Journey soundbite sent me some feedback, and she said, yeah, this nodal thing confuses me. Her south node is in the first house in the sign of Libra. So in the soundbite, I delineate this and explain how to think about it. But she said to me, the feedback that she was giving me is, yeah, but when I have read and heard what some other evolutionary astrologers have said, is that the houses and signs are the same. The houses and the signs are not the same. So this is the emergency. I'm not trying to, the client might see this. I'm not picking on you at all. They're not the same. So I just want to do this thing for a couple minutes. The house, and when you read astrologers or listen to astrologers who say they're wrong. All it does is create confusion. And if I get a bunch of thumbs down from people who think it's the same, that's fine. I don't care. Think of it this way. Let me say it this way. Let me start over. This might be helpful to you if you were to consider a house as indicating the arenas of life, the places where activities belong, right? So first house, for example. First house, independence, leadership, trailblazing, breaking out on one's own or feeling pushed out, having to go it alone, whatever, independence. That's the activities, the parts of life, the things that are happening are in the first house, right? Planets are parts of the psyche. Houses represent the parts of life. They're different. And then the signs represent ways of doing things or reasons for doing things, styles of doing things. The first house is not the same as Aries. So a first house, south node, independence, again, leadership, trailblazing, going off on one's own. Body, certain things about sexuality, like the right to exist, feeling one has the right to exist, these kinds of things. The sign in which that south node in the first house is the way it's happening, the reasons it's happening. So if it's in Libra, then, and you're like, what? I just stumbled across this guy's videos. What's his expletiving problem? But it just makes me crazy because it creates confusion. Anyway, so then Libra, anything in Libra is operating through the lens of Libra with Venusian motivations. So south node in the first house is always multiple life history of independence, trailblazing, leadership, blah, 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 going it alone. Through the lens of Libra means I'm trying to get along with people, or I'm trying to find balance. It's not about relationship. Libra is not about relationship. It's about trying to balance things. It could be people too, but it's not the house of relationship, right? It's the sign. The seventh house is a house of relationship. So Libra first house says it's not Mars, Aries. It's not the same thing, but those parts of life that are associated with this happening in a Libran way for Libran reasons. So this person, for example, a person with south node in the first house, may feel, oh, I have to go it alone. But that person won't stand up and scream like a jackass to everybody, you're a jerk, get away from me, I'm doing it by myself. The person will do everything he or she can to say, thanks for your help or your input, but I really just have to do this by myself. That person will do the independence in the Libran way, or for Libran motivations. Like, I'm an artist. I need to express creativity. I need to do that, right? To contrast this, the seventh house is about one-on-one relationships. Whatever sign is a planet in the seventh house or the node is working through, It's about a way of doing something, again, or a reason for doing something. So seventh house is partnership, relationship, building bridges, committee decision where I have to wait for you to tell me what you think and we have to dialogue. The parts of life that require us to learn. Well, what are these words? I'm losing these words. I wasn't going to do a video and teach and think it's like my night off, but I'm like, again, it's emergency. What's it called? Negotiation, compromise, deal making, right? Give and take. That's what's happening if this node is in the seventh house or a planet's in the seventh house. That's where the focus is. If that node or planet's in Aries, it needs to operate through an assertive lens, right? It's motivated by initiating contact. Houses and signs are not the same thing. Houses represent parts of life or arenas of life, activities that we're going to engage in. Signs represent the way things happen, how they happen, why they happen. So with this example, and again, I know I'm all fired. I'm not trying to pick on my client who reflected this, because what she said is I'm kind of new to evolutionary astrology. She's been doing astrology a long time, but she's kind of new to evolutionary work. And so she finds all these opinions. Mine is different. And all these other people are saying houses and signs are the same thing. And what you'll find when you're learning or you're studying, what you'll find is someone will post or talk about something. If you have Jupiter in Pisces or the 12th house, or they'll say if you have the sun in Libra or the 7th house, well, it just creates confusion. And there's a whole cadre of evolutionary astrologers who are sowing this confusion every single day, which is why it's so frustrating to me, because people who come to me assume I'm in that groove or something. And I'm like, no, I'm actually teaching stuff that makes sense. You're not confused when you study with me or you get a reading from me. Anyway, so I recommend you don't listen to that. And it's one of the reasons that this happens, I'll just say this, is that one of the reasons that an astrologer might get to that way of describing it is that it's easy to condense things when you're writing books. When you're writing, it means that you have half as many sections to write. So you can point to the archetype, and you can even intend that people don't totally confuse them. But if you constantly say, if you have Mercury in Gemini or the 3rd house, or if you have Moon in Virgo or the 6th house, it confuses everybody. So this person that I'm talking about has a reverse chart, not natural. Like natural would be like Pisces or Aries rising, and then, on the cusp of the 2nd house is Taurus, on the cusp of the 3rd house is Gemini. This person has the opposite. So Libra rising, so everything's opposite. I have that too. And it's one of the first things I learned, because I was listening years ago to people talk about things that were confusing. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. When I eventually found my teacher, Steve Forrest, he explained it really clearly, and it wasn't a problem. He said, stuff happens in a house. It happens for reasons to do with the sign, or in a style related to the sign. So when you see one of those charts, don't get confused, don't get freaked out, don't decide you can't interpret it. Again, they're not, houses and signs are not the same. Evolutionary astrology world, houses and signs are not the same. And it's been going on. This, you know what this is? I'm going to tell you what this is. Dear Diary, this is my Saturn and Gemini in the 9th house. Details are important. Clarity is important. Knowing what you're talking about before you open your word hole, it's important. But my Saturn's conjunct Vesta, and that's the problem. I take the Saturn bit really seriously, because Vesta is about devotion. And for me, this is a sacred art where I want to be clear as possible. So anyway, so let's do a couple other examples. Let's say 2nd house in Scorpio. The second house is about self-reliance. It has to do with the parts of life where we earn money. But it's not about money. People think it's about money and possessions. A lot of us doing astrology talk like that, and we think it's about that. And of course, then this astrological seeker we'll get into this groove of like, whoa, how can I improve my money thing? Oh, second house. Second house is about survival issues and how you use your time, your energy, your attention, and other resources. If you have a sense of your value, this is the other thing. If you have a sense of your value system, then, sorry, I'm just distracted because I just did this audio. Go to SoundCloud, by the way. Some of you may have seen this video on YouTube called The Deeper Meaning of the Eighth House. And I just kind of spend, I don't know, 40 some minutes or something like talking about this. And yesterday I released a shorter, it's about the same. It's up 49 minutes on SoundCloud. Look up Tom Jacobs Astrology on soundcloud.com and look for Keys to the 11th House. Anyway, I'm just thinking about doing a whole series of these things. But anyway, with the second house, it's kind of inspired. To-do list. Second house is about your value system and are you living according to your values? Because if you are living according to your values, then the way that you earn money suits your values and you have self-respect and you like yourself. And then the way you use money can have, can contribute to and reflect self-respect and your values as well. So that whole bit, and there's a lot more to say, but just that's the basic idea, or one thread of it. Happening through the lens of Scorpio, one might approach things in a really intense or defensive way. Or when a new resource is available or a skill that might be learned, a person might try to part the veils, kind of trying to dig to find, a deeper level of meaningfulness or truth or something. But what's happening is self-esteem issues or the appropriate use of resources, time, energy, and also including money and possessions. So that person might be really secretive about money, right? It's about money, or secretive about time. It's about time through the lens of Scorpio. Now, to contrast this, eighth house in Taurus. Eighth house, I'm not going to do I just had this vision of me doing like this for like 2 hours. I'm not going to do that. But I just want to give you some examples of how to tease out the keywords so you're not confused. Because houses and signs are not the same thing. Okay, so can I pull on my Libra rising to express this in a non-angry way? Okay, so eighth house is about shared resources, right? It's not in shared values. And again, you might think, first thing you think might be sex, death, and other people's money. And that's fine. That stuff does belong in that house. But consider anything where you need to connect with another person, they need to see a truth about you and you see a truth about them. So it includes vulnerability and trust issues as well. Intimacy, partnership, sexuality, blah, blah, all these things. Again, there's more to it, but there's just that done with Taurus motivation or Taurian motivations. You're trying to slow down and do one thing at a time. So when you connect with someone, you're going to be very measured. Oh my God, I have this. I'm going to tell you am I going to tell you a story? I don't want to. No, I don't want to tell you a story. Well, I'll just say that at certain times in my life, a couple of intimate partners were very sure, like in my younger adulthood days. I'm middle-aged now, apparently, but like kids use phrases, I don't understand it. I know I'm old, but where the woman thought I wasn't attracted to her because I kind of move kind of slow when I'm getting to know somebody. My eighth house, my intimacy thing, has Taurus on the cusp of it. So one thing at a time. And like, for example, if my partner, again, eighth house, shared resources, shared values, right? That includes shared time. If she said to me, all right, we got to buy these 13 things. We got to go to these 25 places. We got to call these 10 people. I would be like, whoa, because I got to do one thing at a time. Okay, so eighth house trust, vulnerability, whatever. With Taurus motivation, conservative, not political, but small c conservative. One thing at a time, slowing down, trying to control the pace to make sure things are going well and smoothly, right? So there's the contrast. By the way, houses and signs are not the same. Let me give you another contrast. We've done 2 out of 6 pairs. Maybe I should keep going. Let's do Gemini Sagittarius, because this is one that, okay. And I think of these 2, Gemini Sagittarius and 9th house, 3rd house, as how we know things, how we learn things, how we know things, where we get our information, and then how we decide it's true or something. Or what is truth? How do we go about learning what is worth learning, right? So in the 3rd house, we're talking about all the parts of life that are about research, data, learning new things, gathering data, asking questions, consulting books. Like I read, or websites. Again, I'm middle-aged. I remember what it feels like to read a book. Since I've become a writer and a teacher, I don't have the strength to read almost anything anymore. But I wanted to know about digestive enzymes, so I consulted 35 different articles or websites or blogs. Or I went to the library and I pulled 10 things off the shelf, as much as I could carry. I took them all over the table, put them down, and I kind of looked up the thing in the index, and I looked and I was like, okay, well, that says this about that. Okay, great. Well, what does this say about that? Consulting multiple sources. 3rd house is learning, being exposed to new information, data. So that's, and school, like school that's not always challenging, or low level of school, like where you're picking up useful skills, but maybe you don't have to understand this big picture. You don't have to, understand theory or something. It's about actually being able to do something through learning new information. So if that's done through the lens of Sagittarius, it will be approached in Sagittarian ways with Sagittarian motivations. So you will, and this is weird for me to do this because this is my chart, but so I'm trying not to tell you stories, but like what am I saying? Oh yeah, 3rd house in a Sagittarius way. 3rd house is, oh yeah, what's going on over here? Oh yeah, there's a bird out the window. Oh yeah, shiny thing. Oh yeah, my phone. What time is it? That's 3rd house. In a Sagittarius way, in a big way, or you might search for a bunch of little pieces of information to try to understand something, because Sagittarius seeks understanding. It's the method or the mode and the motivation of understanding something or seeking a bigger picture. Say it that way, seeking a bigger picture. So it's about data and how you explore data, and then it's in a huge way, or for even philosophical motivations. Okay, 9th house. This includes parts of life where you have to go far, whether it's physical or imaginal or intellectual. You have intellectually, you have to go far. You are seeking a higher truth. What's true? What is God? Should I pray? Should I believe in God? Like what? But it has religion, long distance travel, beliefs, belief system, including sometimes politics and law, because these are systems by which we try to understand or find a higher truth, and other things. Again, I'm not being exhaustive here. If that's done in a Gemini way, then there are multiple high-level teachings, because Gemini seeks to open to flexibility, curiosity, doesn't focus very well. Trying not to tell you stories. This is a hard one. It can't be Dear Diary all the time with me, right? It can't. I'm trying to tell you something. You know what I'm trying to tell you? Houses and signs are not the same. Okay, so the 9th house, these big ideas, searching for higher truth, imagination will be approached in a Gemini way, which is flexible, curious, changing all the time. Okay, you know what? You know what we're going to do? We're going to do all of them. Okay. I'm halfway through. Hey, what the hell? I love offering teaching stuff, and I have been off video for a while. I moved. This is why I moved inside of an egg, which is why it looks like this. It's awesome, but I always feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Okay, so I mean, it looks flat back there. It's not. It's like a curve. I'm inside an egg. It's a really big egg. Say fourth house. Let's say the south node's there, or any planets there, right? This contains the parts of life that have to do with the moon archetype, but it's not the same as the moon. It's not the same as Cancer. Fourth house says my roots, heritage, history, ancestry, as well as my inner psychological health, my psychological and emotional foundation. Because it's about family, it does have to do with how you have been taught and shown to nurture yourself or to take care of your feelings or understand your needs as a human. But it's also about belonging. Where do I belong? Community, nation, family, home itself, a piece of land. Any of those things are possible. It's about where you belong. And there is this thing where people experience I don't want to get into this too far, but just some of my experiences. And then another client was recently reflecting this to me about being on the go and moving quite often. And I was moving around for like 15 months, like just till we signed a year-long lease somewhere, which we just did, inside this beautiful yet very delicate egg. I mean, I wish I could show you the whole thing. I mean, you know what an egg looks like, but anyway, so I was saying, well, sometimes we have a period of life where we're moving a lot so that we can put our attention on, well, wait a minute, what do I need to feel safe? So all the parts of life that teach you about where you belong, where you come from, what you need to feel safe. Okay. So, like if you need peace and you spend a lot of time around angry people, you get this contrast and you're like, wait a minute, I need this kind of thing to develop my foundation. That's the fourth house, as well as that history. If that's done in a Capricorn way or for Capricorn reasons, there's a seriousness or maturity or trying to be somber and sober and not too emotional, right? Practical, productive, focused on the bottom line, ambitious, right? Ambitious versus ambition, which would belong in the 10th house. So let's go to the 10th house. And again, one of these shorthands we often use, and you'll find it on a billion websites and a billion books, work and career. Vocation, avocation, right? This kind of thing about work, even though one you don't get paid for, but it's still this idea. I like to think of it as who you are in the world outside of home, like your public self, who you are outside the world. So something in the 10th house is operating in a way that is aware of everyone else can see me, and reputation matters. Like it might be focused on reputation, ambition, competency. What was the other? And I'm perhaps actually building an actual career. The way I like to think of the 10th house is, what do you want to see more of in the world? This will be for the keys to the 10th house thing. What do you want to see more of in the world? Number one, there are 3 questions. Number 2, are you now, or could you become, through hard work and sacrifice, somebody who could bring that? Number 3, if the answer to number 2 is yes, then do you want it? And that covers the idea of responsibility, not social engineering, but like being part of the world, bringing a responsible part of you to the world. Like it covers that, but it also ambition. What do you want? What drives you? So in the 10th house, you are focused on achieving something, accomplishing something, building something over the long term, creating something for a community, building, right? Something. And it can be about actual work and that kind of like, I want to get to a place where they promote me, so I have to study, get a second degree, or get a certification. I have to prove myself. I have to stay late. I have to do these things to prove myself so they see I'm competent and I deserve to have more responsibility, right? That's the 10th house. If that's done through the lens of Cancer, any planet in the 10th house in Cancer, then that whole bit is motivated by Cancerian concerns. So you care about work, or you're emotionally involved in work. It is the opposite of the 4th house because it's in the 10th house, but it's operating according to Cancerian logic. So you might care about what happens at the job. You might be the one who your heart's connected to the work or something like that. You seem to care, or you seem to be a parent or mother figure for people, or you're a nurturer, or you choose work that actually is motivated by nurturing. Think about that. I can tell you this story. At my South Node in Cancer in the 10th, so my whole family has something going on with this. My sister's a caterer. She feeds people. And I worked in kitchens and worked in restaurants and did that for a couple of years. And it's just something in my family where food's a thing. And anyway, my sister's known for her food. Well, that's in my family, Cancer in the 10th house. It's work, but it's with Cancerian motivations, Cancerian ideas. Okay. 5th house contains all the parts of life in which you have to have an opinion and speak up. And it is about creativity, but I think one of the basic, a quantum, is that singular? Quanta is plural. A basic building block of the 5th house is your unique position, your opinion, what you have to offer, your style, what you enjoy. That's the 5th house, right? If that's happening through the lens of Aquarius, the way you enjoy things and what you enjoy is marching to the beat of its own drummer. It's different. It's unique. So it is your expression. That's the noun. Motivated by difference, uniqueness, forward-looking, sci-fi, like a forward-looking as an adjective, right? It's inventive, it's different, it's unique. It makes you stand out, right? But it's your voice, your creative voice, your opinion. In the 11th house, it contains all the parts of life related to this Uranus archetype, the Aquarius Uranus archetype. Well, that is where the parts of life that have to do with having goals for the future. I think of this on like a two-sided coin. I guess coins have two sides. Sorry, I'm like out of it. I've been goofing off all day. Like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Okay, what do I want my future to look like? 2 months, a year, 5 years, right? Planning for the future. Investing in a retirement account, for example, or setting something up for the future, right? And then realizing that you can't do it by yourself. So you have to ally with other people. And that's where we get the shorthand of friends, wishes, hopes, dreams. Well, your goals, which are based in your values, by the way, your goals kind of determine what groups of people you should ally with. You can't do it alone. So you find other people who can help you and you can help them, or who want the same kind of future. It may not be literally the same kind, but you can help each other. So in this house involves groups, networks, associations, political groups, political parties, any group where you might protest or write a letter to the city council to try to change a policy or something like that. It involves all these groups, right? And also your goals. The groups reflect your goals, reflect your values, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, if that is done through the lens of Leo, then you're going to approach groups in a charismatic, playful, creative, shiny way. It is not your expression of the 5th house. It is the 11th house creating the future. Because you know what? Guess what? Houses and signs are not the same. Okay. Okay, so 11th house, your goals, maybe they're creative goals. What do you want your future to look like? Maybe it has to do with something performative, right? But it's about goals done in a Leonine way. It could be that you stand out within a group context as a leader or a performer or a funny person or charismatic person. It could be that. But within groups, you're somehow being Leo-like. Okay, 6th house, 12th house bit. 6th house contains all the parts of life where we learn how to be a good team player. We learn discipline as far as like being responsible for something, taking responsibility, being of service, fixing things. So all the parts of life that involved identifying what isn't working well or correctly and fixing or improving it. Do you fix clocks? That belongs in the 6th house. I know this whole thing about small animals too, big animals in the 12th house, whatever, that's fine. You can be a whale veterinarian if you want to be in the 12th house, but or like a hamster veterinarian in the 6th house. But the 6th house has places where we learn, we submit humbly to be of service. That's kind of a broad, that's kind of not the best way to say it, but think about hierarchies where a teacher, student, a master, apprentice, somebody knows something and the other person is endeavoring to become masterful. It can also be power problems regarding imbalanced relationships, unfair things, which can be master-slave kind of thing, where somebody feels controlled or something like that by another person. But there's a hierarchy. So boss, employee, right? And then that boss has a boss. So that, it's like all in the 6th house, as well as helping, healing, fixing the clock, or, cleaning the gutter because we have this weird flood in that part of the yard because the gutter's overflowing. That kind of noticing what isn't, all the parts of life that contain noticing what isn't parts, and getting parts of life that involve getting very specific and detail-oriented, analytical focused, right? But it's the parts of life. If that's done in a Piscean way, the person might allow things to just be what they are, right? Because allowing things to settle, like, oh, there's a flood in that part of the yard because the gutters are clogged. That's an interesting opportunity for a fish pond over in the wrong part of the yard. Letting things happen, flowing with things, right? Maybe not noticing when things don't work or not caring. Here, I'm embarrassed about that because that's me. Maybe I'll edit this part out. Like I live with a very Virgoan partner, like a very 6th house and Virgo. She has stuff in the sign of Virgo and in the 6th house. And I try to take the cue, right? I have Pisces on the cusp of the 6th house, right? I don't always pay attention. So, it's not that I let her do that. I try to learn from her because my Piscean thing is like regarding scheduling and things like that, like the daily tasks or whatever. I want to zone out and tune out. Like I don't know how to keep track of all those details, right? Okay. Or I don't know how to fix something. Or this happens a lot. I don't think this would happen if I weren't a channel. This happened today, actually, where I was at the store and there's a little rewards program at the store. So I'm like, I take my hand and I go to put my phone number in. And when I'm doing it, I'm like, I don't know if that's the right hand to use. And I kind of imagine using the other hand and I'm like, well, that might feel comfortable, but no, I am right-handed. That's like, it's a silly example. But since I've been channeling for a year, the last, 11 years or something, increasingly channeling, like, the halves of my brain get not scrambled, but reoriented, right? So anyway, these very specific things, sometimes I'm confused about it. I don't know how to do it. And that's kind of one of these examples of sixth house with Pisces on the cusp. So you approach detail-oriented parts of life in a Piscean way. You lose track. You don't understand. You're confused. 12th house contains all the parts of life where a person surrenders to a higher truth or learns that he or she is more than just ego, part of the fabric of consciousness, right? So my mediumship, my channeling, meditation, energy work, all that fits in the 12th house. Well, with Virgo on the cusp, I approach that in a very detail-oriented way. Like, you can't see my desk, but like this kind of program crystal can't touch that kind of program crystal, because I'm like quality control all the details about my spiritual work. So these things can't touch, or these things can, but those things can't. So it's like I will approach all my 12th house stuff. It's like when channeling, like I'm able to discern, oh, this is a dead relative versus this is an ascended master versus this is an inner child. So I approach all the 12th house things in a Virgoan way, detail oriented, perhaps controlling sometimes. I don't like meditating. I'm trying to do it more in a more formal, structured way. Um, but anyway, um, well, I got distracted by my own, my joke with my girlfriend is she'll say something like, oh yeah, I got to go make dinner. And I'll be like, I'm going to go think about my choices. Anyway, so now I'm distracted by my choices. But 12th house, how I relate to the cosmos, approached in a Virgoan way. So I hope that this hasn't been pedantic and laborious and annoying, but houses and signs are not the same thing. And if you listen to the people who keep saying that over and over again, you're going to be terribly, terribly confused. So stop it. Okay. Thanks for your time and energy. You can see what I'm up to at tdjacobs.com, as in the darndest jacobs.com, tdjacobs, and also healingsuicide.com. And there's so much stuff that I offer through my site. So what a energetically programmed crystals, astrology, lessons, tutoring, consultations. I do energy work, all these different things. And also I'll just tell you that I'm getting great feedback on Loving Lilith, the Lilith Home Study course, which you can check that out if you're interested in Lilith. If you've read the book or you have your natal report, the Blackman Lilith natal report, this is the next step for deep healing. Anyway, thank you. Take care. Goodbye. And don't listen to those people who keep saying they're the same. Okay, bye.